That afternoon, the garden felt like my kingdom, a green world where every leaf moved for me, and nothing had ever taught me fear. I walked with slow pride through familiar grass, brushing stems with my whiskers, certain this small piece of earth belonged to my paws alone. A dry leaf rolled across the lawn, and I followed it lightly, half hunter, half spoiled prince, amused by how easily the world entertained me. Even the butterflies seemed harmless to me then, bright drifting things that invited chase but never once suggested that beauty could hide danger. Sunlight rested on my back like approval, and every warm stone, bending blade, and moving shadow confirmed the same quiet belief that I was safe. I did not see the low bush as a warning, only another corner to inspect, another secret pocket where something small might flee. That my head lowered, my paw reached forward, and my thoughts stayed playful, because danger had never before stepped out and answered my curiosity. Then the grass in front of me changed shape, rising with a deliberate stillness that felt wrong before I even understood what I saw. A cobra lifted itself from the shadows, hood spread wide, and the garden I knew vanished so completely it felt stolen in one breath. Its hiss cut the air like cold metal, and something ancient inside me understood that this was not prey, play, or anything survivable. My paws locked against the earth, not because I was brave, but because terror can harden the body before it teaches it how to move. The fur along my spine surged upward without permission, making me look larger while my heart pounded the truth that I could die here. I stared into the lifted hood and felt two orders collide inside me. One demanding I stand firm, the other begging me to live. Every hunting instinct I trusted suddenly felt childish beside this creature, because one careless step could turn my confidence into a final mistake. So I arched, held my ground, and showed my fear as warning, because sometimes the body pretends to be dangerous only to buy time. People often mistake that posture for confidence, but in moments like this, a large cat can look proud while panic tears through him. I was not thinking about victory anymore, only distance, timing, breath, and whether my next movement would protect me or invite the strike. The garden smelled different now suddenly, not of dirt and sun, but of venom, risk, and the terrible nearness of an ending. I began stepping backward inch by inch, because turning away would be surrendering my eyes, and surrendering my eyes could surrender my life. That is the cruel logic of fear in predators, where retreat must look controlled, even when the mind is screaming louder than the body. My ears stayed sharp for movement, my eyes never blinked, and all the playful noise inside me collapsed into one thin thread of survival. Nothing in that moment felt large about me except the fear, and fear was heavier than muscle, wider than fur, and colder than pride. The cobra did not need to chase me to dominate the space, because its raised body turned one patch of ground into forbidden territory. For the first time, I understood that curiosity has edges, and some edges cut so deep they divide a carefree life from caution. I used to believe that being strong meant nothing in the garden could truly threaten me, but strength offers no bargain against venom. A single strike could steal the porch from me, the evening bowl, the warm room, and the familiar voice that always called me home. That was when fear stopped being about the snake alone and became fear of losing everything gentle that waited for me beyond the door. Animals do not measure danger with philosophy, yet the body remembers comfort instantly when death stands close enough to completely interrupt tomorrow. So I kept retreating, not like a king protecting status, but like a living creature suddenly desperate to preserve one more ordinary night. The sunlit yard that once felt open now seemed full of hiding places, each tuft of grass capable of concealing another silent threat. And even after I gained space, I could not trust the ground, because fear changes more than distance. It changes the meaning of place. A garden can be a playground for months, then become a battlefield in seconds. And the memory of that change never fully leaves. That is why cats sometimes return from danger quieter, scanning old corners longer, because experience teaches suspicion where innocence once filled the pause. What changed in me was not cowardice, but awareness, the heavy understanding that a familiar place can still hold something merciless inside. Before that hiss, I explored because I assumed the world would answer my boldness with harmless surprises, never with a lesson about mortality. After it, every step carried a question, every shadow asked for patience, and every rustle had to be judged before curiosity could advance. So this is how fear protects life, by reducing arrogance, slowing movement, and forcing attention onto details that once seemed too small to matter. My larger body did not erase vulnerability. It only delayed my understanding of it, because size can bluff danger, but never cancel its power. Standing there, I learned that courage is sometimes nothing more glorious than staying steady long enough to leave without inviting sudden disaster. I was backing away from a snake, yet deeper down, I was backing toward home, toward the life that suddenly felt precious beyond pride. The porch in my memory became brighter than the sun on the grass, because safety shines strongest when it might be taken away. I could almost hear the house before I reached it, the bowl clink, the calm footsteps, the ordinary sounds that mean survival continued. That imagined return gave my retreat purpose, because fear becomes bearable when it is tied to something loved, remembered, and still possible. So no, my raised fur was not vanity, and my rigid stance was not pride. It was survival, wearing the costume of defiance. Many people imagine fear means weakness, but for animals, it often means the senses are working perfectly, registering danger before disaster becomes unavoidable. My fear was honest, immediate, and intelligent, because it told me this encounter could not be solved with curiosity, strength, or playful confidence. The cobra forced me to respect a rule older than my habits, that the world belongs most to whatever can end you fastest. And once that rule enters the body, even peaceful places never feel entirely innocent again, because memory keeps danger alive after danger departs. Or later, when the yard grew quiet, I still paused near bushes, not from drama, but from a mind that now understood concealment. I had learned that death does not always rush loudly. Sometimes it waits low, motionless and patient, until prey wanders one step too near. That lesson did not make me lesser. It made me sharper, quieter, and more faithful to the signals that keep living creatures alive. It also made the house feel different, not merely comfortable, but sacred in an animal way, as the place where danger could not coil. When I brushed against familiar walls that evening, I was not just affectionate, I was confirming that I had crossed back into life. The hand that reached down to stroke me felt larger than usual, because after true fear, gentleness is no longer background comfort. I leaned harder into safety, not because I forgot my pride, but because surviving teaches even the proud to cherish softness deeply. That extra closeness was not simple cleanliness, it was relief, the body settling after terror, grateful that warmth, food, and belonging still existed. From outside, someone might think I was just being sweet, but inside, I was honoring the home I nearly lost that day. Trauma in animals is rarely spoken, yet it lingers in routes avoided, pauses extended, and the sudden need to stay near safety. So when I glanced twice at a patch of grass, I was not becoming strange. I was becoming informed by survival memory. When I froze at a hiss of wind, it was because my body now knew how quickly ordinary sound can turn fatal. The cobra left more than a scare behind it, left a map in my nerves, marking which shapes deserved caution forever afterward. That map did not close the garden to me, but it changed how I entered it, slower, lower, and far more aware. I still wanted sunlight, grass, and drifting scents, yet now I carried respect beside curiosity. And respect makes bold creatures last longer. The world had not become cruel that day, only honest, and honesty can feel terrifying when innocence has been living without challenge. Before, I trusted the garden because it welcomed my play. Afterward, I respected it because it had revealed its hidden teeth once. That difference matters because innocence enjoys a place. But wisdom studies it, listens longer, and never assumes kindness from silence again there. What viewers may call overreaction is often a nervous system, remembering exactly how narrow the distance between play and disaster can be. A cautious cat is not always fearful by nature. Sometimes he is simply carrying proof that the world once rose up against him. That proof lives in the pause before stepping, in the sideways look, and in the decision to stay closer to home afterward. It also lives in sudden affection, because surviving a real threat can make familiar love feel like something newly discovered again inside. When I pressed against my person that night, I was not asking for praise. I was choosing the safest heartbeat I knew. The near loss made attachment visible because comfort matters most when the mind has just imagined life ending outside the door forever. So the story is not about a fearless cat defeated, but about a confident cat awakened to limits he could not ignore. There is no shame in that awakening because survival rarely flatters us. It simply strips illusion and asks whether we want tomorrow. I wanted tomorrow, and that want was stronger than pride, stronger than curiosity, and stronger than the foolish belief I ruled everything. So I retreated carefully, carrying my fear with dignity, because living animals do not need to win every encounter, only survive them. That is the
Come
deeper
in,
psychology
little one.
of the moment,
You're home
when
now.
terror narrows the world until home, breath, and one safe step mean everything. The cobra taught me nothing gentle, but it taught me clearly, and
It's
clear
okay,
lessons
you're safe
often
now.
leave the longest marks inside
Okay,
behavior
quiet
afterward.
exhale.
After danger, I still stepped into the garden, but never again as a child of comfort who believed risk belonged elsewhere entirely. I entered as someone changed, watchful without surrender, calm without innocence, and far more grateful for the doorway behind me at home. That gratitude is why survivors often seem
Welcome
softer
back,
afterwards,
little one.
because
It's
once
safe
life feels
now.
fragile,
Purr.
tenderness stops
Purr
looking small
softly.
and starts looking essential. My lingering caution was not a broken spirit, but a wiser one, newly aware that peace is precious because it can end. And my extra affection was not weakness, but recognition, a quiet way of telling home that I knew exactly what it protected. The world outside remained beautiful, but beauty alone no longer defined it, because I had seen how quickly beauty can lift a hood. That memory stayed with every rustling bush, and reminding me that wonder and danger sometimes share the same doorway into attention for me. Still, I lived, and living meant carrying the lesson forward, not as constant panic, but as careful respect for what can kill. That careful respect became the new shape of my courage, less reckless, less proud, and much more faithful to the value of return. Because the truest victory that day was not defeating the cobra, but walking away alive enough to hear my name called again. And that is why I came back quieter, more watchful, and strangely more loving. Because nearly losing life taught me where life lives. The garden remained outside, but home moved deeper into me. Because after smelling death, I finally understood what belonging was truly worth.